Hi everybody, welcome back to the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host. I'm the founder of stelliumastrology.com. I'm a tutor at the London School of Astrology and I am also the former horoscope columnist for Elle Magazine UK. And this is take 3 of recording this because I've had some issues with my recording equipment. So I have recorded 2 videos about Pluto entering Aquarius, and by some spooky, weird coincidence, 2 of them just didn't record with sound properly anyway, so it sounded like I was down a well or something. How fitting for Pluto. So I'm not going to faff about with lots of chit chat. I just basically want to get on and record for you. So the last time Pluto entered Aquarius was in 1777. And that's the last time he entered. And so he will have spent some time in there. And the time before that was 1532. So it's not like a very regular occurrence. And the next time Pluto enters Aquarius after this stint, he will be there. He enters in 2269. So that's how frequently Pluto goes into Aquarius. He spends large amounts of time in signs that he goes into. He's just been in Capricorn since 2008 and is leaving briefly because he enters Aquarius on the 23rd of March. And then he's going to dip back out into Capricorn again for a final, the last dance, the last waltz. And then from November 2024, he will stay in Aquarius. He'll enter Aquarius and he'll stay there until 2044. So that's like 20 solid years of Pluto in Aquarius. And so Uranus as well. Like, I'm just going to mention Uranus because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. He moves a lot more quickly than Pluto. So when Pluto enters Pisces in 2044, Uranus will have moved from mid-Taurus all the way through to mid-Leo. He's essentially a square away. He's a square away. So don't be square. Let's learn about what Pluto in each of the signs means for your ascendant and rising sign. And just one other thing before I get started, you may hear me use or overuse the word transform, but I want you to think about what transform really means, because it's such a key word for Pluto. But actually, to transform is to transcend form. One of the books that I like to read to my son, who has got a Scorpio moon like myself, is The Hungry Caterpillar, because it's a great book to help children understand change and what goes on through the process of change. It's one of his it is his favorite book. And I'm recording this on World Book Day in the UK, and he actually went into nursery today with a little caterpillar toy, so his little hungry caterpillar. So quite fitting for a Pluto transit or a Scorpio moon. And to transcend form is to go above, go beyond, to ascend almost. And the form aspect can be like physical manifestation. It can be the form in which something assumes in this world, or even transpersonal objects or something, like there's a sense of something taking on an essence, or like mutating or evolving in a sense. So in order to evolve, in order to mutate, in order to change, we are presented with a situation which feels non-negotiable to us. It feels like there's no way we can move around this without having to change ourselves in some way, whether it's consciously changing or whether it's changing ourselves in a way purely for a survival, a sense of survival. So it could be that you're dealing with for some people, I know, dealing with immigration and having to jump through hoops and tick boxes to satisfy the law as far as that's concerned, or it could be, not getting certain promotions, forcing you to stay in a place that you're at that you just can't tolerate anymore. So you either think, right, well, I can't climb up and I can't go any further here, so I have no choice but to leave. There's a sense of like forcing you in that way, or it could be literally personal inner transformations or external transformations like surgery. I'm actually reading a book at the moment called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it talks about the shift in self-belief that cosmetic surgery can provide for somebody and what they can accomplish once they believe in themselves. Sometimes when people have plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery, the physical act of change is representative of something within them. And if the surgery is successful and it works and they are happy with the outcome and they really believe in themselves and they feel attractive and they feel like they can accomplish anything, then suddenly they can. But he said in the book that what's more interesting is the people who he hasn't seen, who still have the surgery, the issue is corrected, but they can't see the change and they don't have that shift in mindset. And those are the people that limit themselves. It's a really, really interesting book, really, really fascinating. Essentially, it's a self-help book, but it's like, to listen to some of the studies is really, really, really interesting. But it's, change, transformation often strikes us on a core level about what we are capable of. And once we've achieved or overcome the obstacles that are presented, usually by the transpersonal planets, but mostly when it comes to Pluto, some of the toughest challenges we have to face, what happens when we come out the other side of that is a sense of unstoppability. Like we become an unstoppable force once we know who we are and what we're capable of, what we can achieve when we put our mind to it, and essentially discovering who it is we really are and what we want. So not to be in fear of Pluto, because Pluto is, I think Patrick Watson said the other day about ultimately Saturn is benefic. When you look at it, Saturn is actually a benefic. And I loved the way he said that, because it actually made me think about the fact that Saturn can be a really great teacher. We have good times with our teachers and bad times, and some of the toughest teachers are the ones that we get the best results with. So is that not ultimately beneficial? And I think that, Pluto in many of his guises introduces us to people and experiences and situations where we are forced to explore ourselves on a deep level and to accept aspects of ourselves that we can't change, but also to make changes where we can. And ultimately, what I like to say is that we are the sum of our previous experiences. And I think when it comes to Pluto, the experiences that we have are ultimately enriching. Sometimes they're really tough. Sometimes, they're painful. And sometimes they're exciting and they bring you to life. So it's like life. We have to just deal with everything that life throws at us, play the cards we're dealt. Pluto, well, that's where how good your poker face is. How good is your poker face? And how much can you put up with? Because I think that Pluto really tests us in that way. And what sticks is what's meant to stay, and what goes is essentially what we don't need anymore. So let's get on with Pluto through the signs. Watch for your ascendant and your sun sign. So for you, Aries, Pluto is in your 11th house. And the 11th house for you is, for everybody, is about community and like having surrounding yourself with like people who are either like-minded or appreciate you for who you are, your uniqueness. But with Pluto being the ruler of your 8th house and Pluto being in your 11th, there's a sense of people finding value in what makes you different. And on top of that, Uranus, which rules Aquarius. Like I said, the initial ingress of Pluto into Aquarius will have a relationship with Uranus in Taurus currently. This means that there's a sense of earning to be done here, and also a sense of self-belief, understanding your own worth, and people also recognizing that within you. So big changes. I mean, it's not like Aries, you aren't scared to strike out and do things your own way and be your unique self. However, I think people really are buying into this now. They are into the hype. They're into the hype with it. Now, there's a sense of like potentially you could monetize your unique gifts. There's definitely a sense of being immersed in some kind of community or project. It could be about building your social media presence, and you know, finding your tribe. You know, your vibe attracts your tribe. But I think there's also a sense of learning the true value of genuine friendships. I think that there's definitely a sense of that at the moment for you, because it may be that you've been working so hard with Pluto moving in your 10th that you haven't really had time to maintain or develop that side of your life. Social life may have suffered for quite some time. So now with Uranus moving into your 11th, there's a sense of finding the people that vibe with you, and either collaborating with them, working on projects together, which could be quite lucrative for you, or it could be a sense of, you know, them wanting to invest in you in some way as well, potentially. I've also got written here, building an online empire, learning about yourself through challenging friendships and relationships. Pluto can introduce us to some unsavory characters sometimes, so you may find that you are surrounded by people like that. It may be that you don't realize that there are certain people in your life who are, I don't know if I'm even going to focus on that, but yeah, I think that your friendships and your relationships right now, there can be an element with Pluto in the 11th of like, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours, or like, what's in it for me? So try as best you can to recognize those qualities in others and work with the people who do genuinely want to help you elevate you, and aren't hanging around because of all of that 10th house Pluto work you've been doing is actually, you know, more what they see in you than your wonderful self. So Taurus, for you, Pluto moving into your 10th house is a power move and a half. It may be that you're drawn at the moment to making big changes, which could have a huge impact on your life, and open you up to a world of opportunity. It could be, I mean, the fact is Pluto is moving into your career area of your chart, and career is, it's not just about just a job. You know, it's not just about having a job that pays the bills. This is about having a trajectory, essentially, that you know, you can really forge a niche for yourself, an area of speciality. But also, you know, Pluto rules your 7th house, and it also is opposing your first, where Uranus is currently cruising through your sign. So actually at this point, relationships are very important for you, and this could be about not just about, you know, forging your very unique and specific career trajectory, but also about building relationships and building up a community, and working with a community of people who are in the same boat as you, but doing it a different way, and can help you on your way. The wonderful thing about Aquarius is we do it our own way, and what is unique to us and what works for us is what helps us to find our tribe, who relate, and, you know, how, you know, appreciate how we work and what we're doing. But also relationships don't have to be professional, they can be romantic as well. And it could be that your romantic relationships have reached a point of culmination, and you are at a point where you are ready to take things to the next level. With Pluto being so high in the chart, you know, high in the sky, as far as your chart is concerned, it describes a sense of very visible transformation process occurring. And as it highlights your 7th house as well, your relationship zone, it could be that you know, your relationships are ready for, you could be ready for marriage, you could be ready for starting a family, particularly with Pluto entering the 10th and 4th house kind of home and career axis, but also the parental axis. It could be that this period is a time where you see yourself not just as a professional, but grow into the person you most admire, at least have an idea or can visualize modeling yourself from somebody who you admire, somebody who you want to be like. It could be at this point in your life, you're very much working on becoming that image of who you imagine yourself to be. But the thing with Pluto moving across your 10th house is that it isn't without its you know, issues. And essentially, when you have a planet moving across your 10th or the midheaven area, you have a sense of permanency about how people see you. The reputation at this point can be affected. It can be, you know, if you are aware of this, you can work in a positive way with it. Pluto moving across your 10th, it can be a time where you are you have great power, but during this period of great power, you also end up wielding that power over others, or others will attempt to try and wield it over you. The true treasure that you find through these processes is working through some of the challenges that Pluto presents, and your personal resilience at that time is it will show you how you handle some of the more challenging aspects of these transits, and show you your own personal strengths and coping mechanisms during this time. So if you're not somebody who quits easily, then this could be a time where you take on quite an intense workload, but maybe also an equal amount of power, and you really have an opportunity to create a community project that has your own personal fingerprint on it. But again, make sure you are aware that what's that saying, be nice to the people that you meet on the way up, because you're going to meet them on the way back down again. It's that sense of, remember that people remember you often for how you make them feel. So if you are kind and generous and compassionate towards them, they are going to always remember you for that. But if you were like cold, career climbing, ambitious to a point of ugliness, they're probably going to remember that more. So yeah, it's a powerful time for you. Your relationships and career are going to go through some big changes, and ultimately you too will go through some big changes, and you're going to learn a lot about you know, your inner strengths and some of the deeper aspects of who you are and where you come from, because of what you're striving towards. What is it exactly that you're trying to grow towards, and why? You know, what kind of soil are your roots in? Is it nourished, or was it based on a feeling of never having quite enough, that's pushing you towards achieving great things right now? That, you know, we always kind of work towards the things that we feel like we lacked when we were growing up. So what was your lack that's pushing you towards this Pluto power moment? Okay, so Gemini, you have got Pluto in your 9th house, and the 9th house is in a harmonious aspect to the 1st house and the 5th house. You have the ruler of Aquarius in your 12th, and you have Pluto is the ruler of your 6th house. So it feels like there's a sense of there's work to be done here. But essentially the work that you're doing, it feels like You know what needs to be done now. You've probably been developing some interests and passions of yours for a while, and these are now, it's time to start doing the groundwork to really build this up, because you have a vision, Gemini, and this vision is a future vision which is steering the ship for you at this time. And now that you have done the grueling 8th house, Pluto in the 8th house graduation process, and done a lot of the personal work, it's time to reflect some of that, some of your learnings and some of the changes in what it is that you do, and essentially so that you can help other people. You know, it's time to use your skills for, not everybody wants to be a healer working in healing work, in healing fields, but you know, essentially when there's a 12th house presence during a transit like this, it can describe, you know, wanting to work with the wounded in some way, helping people who feel disempowered or kind of helpless or have kind of given up in some way. But that may not be your ongoing work as far as Pluto is in your 9th house. That's just how things may start off. Pluto in your 9th house, what I like about this is that regardless of your awareness of Pluto, he will make himself known to you, and he will be able to change your perspective, your entire perspective, through his presence in your 9th house, possibly through the work that you choose to do or the courses that you study, or through travel. It's religion, it's also philosophy. These kind of buzzwords for the 9th house essentially are about Pluto opening you up to new potentials. And when he affects your entire outlook, when he's speaking in such easy communication with your ascendant or with the 1st house, it means that you are able to see the world and what you are capable of in a whole different light. You just have to, in a very 9th house sense, be prepared to take some kind of risk in order to do this. But don't put yourself in crisis just because you decided that the risk is worth it. You know, make sure that what you're doing, I mean, Gemini, you do love to be spontaneous at times, and yes, freedom is important to you. So make sure that what you're doing is going to ultimately lead to freedom and to giving you the movement that you desire in what you do. But don't, you know, don't cut your nose off to spite your face. Don't take action before you've truly thought about something. I know somebody who had a detached retina during Pluto trine their ascendant, and they were forced to have 2 weeks off work and to just lay down and to be with their own thoughts. And during that period, they really had personal awakenings and realized that they are unhappy with certain aspects of their life and are making really big changes as a result. It was an eye-opener for them. Pardon the pun. This is a Gemini, by the way. So, you know, it can be something drastic like being forced to take a break and to really reassess. But ultimately, you are envisaging a different future from the one that you're currently working towards. And this pathway is going to open up for you during this period of Pluto in Aquarius. And it seems to have a huge amount to do with the type of work you're doing, the daily grind. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of your wellness. You know, ultimately, I think that it's a case of mind and body, mind, body, and spirit, really. For you, Gemini, it's aligning all of those things and rebalancing yourself in order to truly express your newfound vision, your new aspirations as they unfold. But you're able to transform your future, develop yourself, to give yourself the freedom and movement that you desire. Yeah. So, but yeah, positive. Pluto can have a positive influence over your outlook, but not without its challenges. That's just the way Pluto is. So now let's have a quick look at Cancer. Cancer, you have got Pluto in your 8th house, and Pluto in the 8th rules your 5th house as well. So this is a time for you to connect with something that really makes you happy, and you may want to reconnect with that childlike joy, go back to places where you were happy as a child, maybe you know, revisiting those nostalgic parts of your life, and that may trigger a thought process in you which makes you very reflective. It may force you to do a lot of soul searching, because Pluto in the 8th house is certainly a place where we do a lot of soul searching, and not necessarily because of you know, situations that have left us feeling lost, but potentially because we find ourselves at a point in our life where we are looking for more. It's definitely a period, Pluto in the 8th is definitely a sign of being open to doing a lot of shadow work, and doing like studying psychology. If you've already studied psychology, you may want to go a bit deeper into that. It could be that you end up going to therapy yourself because you've decided, you know, it's time to work through some of those skeletons in your closet that now you've got Pluto moving into your 8th house. You've got a chance to work through some of that stuff that perhaps you've been putting on the back burner because you've been dealing with other people's crisis for so long. Because certainly when Pluto moves you through your 7th, there is an element of that. But that, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that going to speaking therapy and speaking to somebody is what you'll be doing. It could be that you find something that is therapeutic for you, you know, like artwork, painting, sewing, astrology, definitely delving into more alternative or mystery occult areas. You know, that's one way of looking at it. It's also the house of inheritance, so it could be that you do come into some money, you inherit some money, or somebody passes something to you. I think of it as the house of hand-me-downs, coming from a big family, and I've got a stellium in the 8th house. I was always being given stuff from other people, so I just kind of feel like, you know, it could well be a place where someone goes, I'm getting rid of my car, would you like it? I've got this lovely dress that I don't need anymore, if you'd like it. It could even be the house of upcycling and buying and selling. It could be like setting up either an Etsy business or a Vinted, like start selling things on Vinted. But essentially, it's a time where you kind of make, do and mend, take what you've already got and improve it in some way, the new and improved. But essentially, when it's with Pluto in the 8th, there's definitely a sense of being self-reflective, and Pluto ruling your 5th house, you want to reconnect with something. If you haven't got a family, it could be that you decide that you want to start one. If you you know, do have a family, it could be that you see changes in your family now. It could be that you go through the next stage of development. Maybe your children are growing up and away, or you know, things of that flavor. But definitely Pluto in the 8th is a time of focus and understanding that there is more to life than the bricks and mortar of reality, and that actually there are things, the subtle nuances and the things that go deeper and a little bit more behind the scenes, or behind that veil. You're going to be more conscious of that as Pluto moves through this area of your chart. So now we have Leo. Pluto is in your relationship house. So when Pluto moves into that area of your chart, your relationships, not just romantic, but there's an intensity about the people that you meet. You could meet people in crisis. If you're already in a relationship with somebody, things could heat up and get a bit more passionate. It might be that you decide that you're ready for a bigger commitment, and this bigger commitment could be life-changing. So, you know, these are the kind of relationships that you could meet. Like, there could be a sense of meeting people who are doing what they truly love in life and inspiring you to make those changes. Or it could be that you are drawn to working with people, or you know, find suddenly that the people around you are in a sense of crisis, and you are kind of a bit of a rock for them. Ultimately, your relationships are going to help you to reflect upon yourself on a very deep level. So maybe you've been very focused on your career for a while and you've been making great strides in those areas, but actually you've not acknowledged some of the stuff that's been kind of like niggling at you on a deep level, and maybe you're not being entirely true to yourself. It might be that your relationships highlight this for you. It could be that the people that you're with say, look, you're unhappy, or you've not enjoyed your work for quite a while. I think that maybe you need to have a bit of a closer look at yourself and see what it is that has prompted you to feel this way, and think about the changes that you can make. For example, I know that when I had Pluto moving through my 7th, I met a few narcissists, psychopaths. I've got an interest in that area because I've been through that stuff, and there was a lot of people around me that were doing drugs and kind of living extremely rock and roll lifestyles. And it could be that at this point in your life, you feel drawn to getting into the underworld with other people and experiencing the life on the edge and feeling really alive and living in the moment. But that will have consequences, because you can't live in the moment like that all the time without having to sacrifice perhaps a steady career, or a steady a sense of stability in life. There's definitely a sense of you either take cautious steps and are very fixed about your approach to everything, Leo, or you kind of go into that whole Pluto immersive, obsessed, passionate realm, where you've got no time for anything but the Pluto figure in your life. So it will be interesting to see how this unfolds for you, Leo. So now we have Virgo. Now, Virgo, you have got Pluto in your 6th house, and also that Pluto rules your 3rd house cusp. So the 3rd house and the 6th house are both mutable houses of change, and with the 3rd house, it's definitely a house of community and local area, and neighborhood and neighbors. So it's about forming friendships, forming networks, and definitely finding like-minded people. There's also a sense of health and fitness being important to you during this time, and it could be that you become fitness obsessed. It could be that actually you decide that your work, the work that you do, it has to be beneficial for your mind, body and spirit, and not just paying the bills, for example. There's definitely a sense of self-care and wellness implied by this transit. And I think that with Virgo, you are very good at not being so good to yourself because you want to make sure everybody else is okay. You're a very caring sign and you're very supportive, but sometimes you support to the point that other people are better off than you are. And then you suddenly go home and are like, well, I can't deal with life right now. So this is probably a good time for you to be quite honest with yourself about what's truly capable, what you're truly capable of, and whether or not, how you see your future, how you can harness the power of Pluto in your 6th house to turn work from a grind and a really long struggle, because work can feel like that, into being something that keeps you feeling alive and happy and intoxicated with that wonderful scorpionic sense, that plutonic sense of thriving in what you do. So I just think about alternative holistic health, because Aquarius on your 6th house cusp just sort of, to me, it screams of doing alternative therapies and alternative healthcare, yoga, wellness, all of that kind of thing. And if I get the sense that maybe you've been trying to do things in a square way for a long time, and maybe it's time to do things in a slightly different way. Pluto and Aquarius certainly to me feels like the world is opening up and being more open-minded towards alternative therapies. So you know, it may be that this opens up for you because the world becomes more accepting of the little quirks that make you you and that make you happy. It's also about checking your inner dialogue, I think, and making sure, or your inner monologue, I should say, and just making sure that the things that you're saying are empowering you and not like holding you back. Because when we have our inner voice telling us, you know, what we can and can't achieve, we often listen to that over everything, above everything. If you've got nightmare neighbors, by the way, this could be a period of coming together as a community in order to handle that situation. I know a Virgo dealing with a nightmare neighbor, and already the community is coming together, but this could be a period where they discover that, you know, it's not just one person, but many who aren't particularly happy with how things are going. Neighbors are also implied by the third house. Moving on to Libra. So Libra, again, you are in a position where Pluto has a positive influence over your outlook because he's in your 5th house, a more subconscious influence than the more obvious from the 9th house, because the 9th and the 5th are trine. Essentially, Libra, you are dealing with definitely a transformation in what you're passionate about, what you truly enjoy, the things that you love to do. You've already been through big transformations, deep psychological changes, as Pluto's been moving through your 4th house since 2008. And now that he's moving out of that area of your chart and into your 5th house, it's about rediscovering your joy again and rediscovering yourself as an individual. You know, often through the first 4 houses of the chart, this is where we are. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are often considered the early areas of life where we are governed by our family and guided by other people. But when we get to the 5th, it's where we discover our own independence in a sense and realize that we have a choice over what we do and what we like to do, our interests and our hobbies. Pluto moving into this area of your chart, I feel like you're going to get very, very immersed in doing things that truly make you happy. It could be that there's a sense, I know somebody who's just in love with the idea of being in love, so he's constantly in new relationships all the time, and it's like to the point that it's like, oh, he's got his new girlfriend with him. It's like another new girlfriend, and it's just like, oh, we're in love, she's the best thing ever. And you know, I feel like with Pluto in the 5th house, or the 5th house really is that area of the chart where you are in love, that honeymoon period feeling. And it doesn't even have to be love, it can just be pure infatuation. But there's a real sense of being away with that like losing yourself to that kind of intoxication. And it doesn't have to be a person or a romance that does that to you. The romance could actually be dance or you know, again, artistic endeavors, doing something that's truly something that makes you happy, and you wake up excited about life because of this. There's something, you know, when they talk about this as the house of joy, it really is about that connecting with an inner joy. And I think that the children are connected to it, because if any parents out there who experience that feeling of joy through their children understand that you do see the world through a different set of eyes, a whole new perspective when you have a child. There's that whole perspective thing again. Children change the way you see the world and change who you are. But this doesn't have to be about actual children, though it could be. If you want children and you haven't got any, it may be that you have a family through adoption or fostering or IVF, for example. It may not be conventional with Aquarius on the 5th house cusp, or it might be that you don't have children, you have puppies or kittens. You know, your babies don't have to be literally babies. They can be whatever they are. If it's, you know, your hobby becomes your baby, you know, a big project, that's something that just takes up your time. There's somebody online who's doing the Frasier project, and he's rebuilding the whole set of Frasier, but miniature. That's a fifth house thing. Could even be a fifth house Virgo thing. I don't know. But it's very like committed and obsessive, actually. So yes, this could also be a time for you, because, you know, Pluto rules your second house cusp, where it's not just about discovering what you love, it's about discovering your self-worth through what you love, and realizing you're worth it, you're worth more. Renegotiating your personal price tag and understanding that it's totally justified. And you know, it could also be about fighting for a cause or other people's causes at that time, or something that you really believe in, and fighting for your values. You know, like with Aquarius on the fifth house cusp, it could be about LGBTQ rights, for example, you know, alternative sexuality, and that kind of thing. So let's move on to Scorpio. So Scorpio, this is Pluto in your fourth house, doing the deep work, very deep work, deep personal reflection, definitely looking at family connections, looking at your ancestry. You've heard me talking about family constellations lately, which have been really, really eye-opening for me. Scorpio, this is probably a good time for you to go for family constellation therapy, and to look back over your past and to understand some of your subconscious motivations, and triggers, because you are traditionally Mars ruled, and Mars is in its passive expression in Scorpio. So therefore, when you do have an ambition or a drive towards something, it's not a very it's not that really out there for everybody to see. You like to keep your cards close to your chest, but actually it describes you as well, and potentially being passively driven, without always understanding exactly what that driving force is. And maybe at this point in your life, you are going to have a greater understanding of yourself on a very deep level. It could be at this time you have your kitchen renovated. If you don't have a home, it could be where you you know, become a homeowner. You know, are other expressions of this. I often find people who are having Pluto transits to their moon or fourth house are having their kitchen decorated, but also they're going through some very, very deep realizations about themselves, their maternal line, and, you know, their emotional nature. So it's always really interesting to see that connection. But this is about really being honest with yourself, being really true to who you are. Relationships are also, you know, it's looking at relationships as well as yourself. So there's this kind of sense of reflecting on who you are and where you are at the stage you are in your life, and just not putting up with other people's stuff at the detriment of yourself and what you want out of life. You know, you may have had a few experiences which have woken you up to aspects of your personality, or of, you know, your personal desires that you weren't even aware of, and relationships have triggered that in you. But as a result, you are now doing a lot of self-work, or will be doing a lot of personal work, and building you know, building a greater sense of understanding about yourself and what it is that you truly want out of life, and what it is you truly, you know, some of the things that you weren't so aware of. A lot of people who do psychotherapy, who study psychotherapy, end up really making huge changes in their life by the end of the studies, because they suddenly realize that they have been living on autopilot and doing things to please other people without realizing. And I think that this transit is like a psychotherapy, deep psychotherapy transit, where you are going to make really big changes in your life. You've probably already been through some very big changes over the past few years, but this transit, to me, seems to describe a sense of you know, going even deeper, because Scorpio, that's what you like to do anyway. So you're going to keep digging, and you're not going to stop until you get to a place that you're satisfied that you've uncovered enough, if that's even possible. But I'm reminded currently of the Carl Jung's dream, where he goes into he's in the basement, and then he finds a well in the basement. So in the basement, according to Freud, if you're in the basement, you're pretty much, you know, at the core, the deepest level that you can explore of the psyche. And then Jung decided to go down into the well, and he went really, really, really deep into the well and saw two skulls at the bottom, and woke up from that dream realizing that there's something farther, something that goes farther and far deeper than just the basement. You know, it's actually, you know, the subconscious is a very deep and mysterious place, and there really isn't a true way of knowing how far it actually goes, how deep it actually goes. It just makes me think of that when I think about the image that comes up for Pluto going through your 4th house, Scorpio. Now, Sagittarius, I'm just referring to my notes, by the way. At the moment, you are identifying who you are going to serve, and transforming the way you perceive the world around you. So you've got Pluto in your 3rd house, and Pluto actually rules your 12th. So it may be that you are learning about new ways to approach life and be more mindful and more conscious. I know a few of my Saggy friends are actually getting into mindfulness practices as we speak. They're doing meditations and things like that, and finding that it really helps them with their focus. And I suppose with Pluto moving into the 3rd house, you will be more focused. It's going to focus your thought processes, and some of the things that you want to, well, definitely your internal monologue. I definitely see a shift in that, because you may start to, I think there's going to be a lot more intensity to your mental juggling skills, and I think you are going to have to apply a certain amount of focus, because it feels like you're taking on a mental load with Pluto moving into your 3rd. Now, one of the things I keep recognizing with some people with Sagittarius or Taurus in their chart is they are being forced to learn to drive. But it could be a metaphor for being more flexible, or having more movement, or more freedom. And if you haven't taken the offer up at this point, you are now being forced, your hand is being forced into it. So it could be like an intensive driving course, for example. But yes, there's a lot of, probably a lot of bureaucracy that you're going to have to deal with. I think that there's also a sense of people understanding the power of your thought process. So if you have a problem-solving mindset, and you're in a job or in a career where, you know, that is something that's highly valued, it could be that you are seen as the person, the go-to person for that kind of thing. Friendships and familial relationships at this time, particularly sibling relationships, may be under pressure, and it could be that there's some unspoken threads that have been tangled in friendships or familial sibling relationships, which need to be untangled delicately, depending on the type of Pluto they seem to embody. But speaking a truth, a type of family truth, just like Scorpio having a family truth to speak as well, in a sense, with Pluto in their 4th. I feel that there's a sense of a family truth here, and it may be waking up to family dynamics which are ultimately quite, I won't say unfair. Definitely there may be preferential treatment or something like that you recognize through this transit. But yes, I think I mentioned the inner monologue, learning the power of subconscious self-talk, and understanding the law of attraction, in a sense, and being kind to yourself. Because I think with this chart that you've got here, the law of attraction seems to be very present And you can call it the law of attraction, you can call it you know, mindfulness and manifestation, but ultimately the power of the mind and the power of words have the ability to transform the world around us, depending on how we're prepared to see it. So I think very interesting times for you, Sagittarius. The opportunity to reframe your perspective and to you know, take the opportunity to see the world in a more positive way, at least understand that you've got the power to do so. Now let's move on to Capricorn. So Capricorn, I'm reminded of a phrase that my ex-boyfriend used to say, which was, it's all about the Benjamins. And for you, Pluto's moving into your second house, which is associated with money, finance, but also self-belief, self-worth, because you're worth it, and all of that jazz. So basically, you know, accumulating objects and wealth. It could be about ownership in some way or another, home ownership, at least kitting out the home in some way or another, or you know, decorating your local space, wherever or however that may be. But actually, this is about an externalization of what you truly think about yourself. Essentially, if you are somebody who has been, you are a Capricorn, so you've been going through Pluto going through your first house for a long time. So the person you were in 2008 is going to be a very different person to who you are now. And prior to 2008, you you know, you may have gone through I think really what we can call this is a graduation. This is a period of graduation for you where you've done the study and now it's time to start building. And you may have already started to build something, but now it's time to really start bringing it in. And it could be that you decide to transform or rebuild something that you've already laid foundations for, that actually during this period you refine and you understand how to build it a bit better. So it could be that, you know, you have a business and an online presence and you feel that it's time to redesign the website to reflect you know, the way you want to present yourself in an online space in a much more honest and realistic way to your previous rookie days of setting it all up yourself and doing it all by yourself. Like now you know what you're trying to say and what you want to do, for example. But it, you know, it's also a sense of at this point like attracting people who see the value in what you do. And you know, the 5th house and the 11th house are highlighted here, so this could be about sharing your gift and doing something that other people see value in, and not only want to support you through collaboration, potentially, you know, want to financially support you, whether that's through you know, investing in what you do, or actually buying a share of whatever it is you've built up that is currently you know, under Pluto's duress. So it could be that you know, it's like buying a house with somebody, or it could be somebody buying a share of your business, or it could be none of the above. It could be that you finally get your payday, you've been working really hard and people are just, you know, the business is going to start booming, but you know, you still have to work through your personal issues of self-belief about what you're really worth. Because if you're putting yourself through a ridiculous grueling schedule, just trying to accommodate everybody and not even putting the correct price tag, then you're going to start by devaluing yourself, you're devaluing everything that you do and come out of it feeling unhappy and unappreciated and potentially burnt out. So when Pluto enters your second, it's also trine your 10th and your 6th. So this is all about understanding what you're worth, and ultimately it has a beneficial impact on your career and your future aspirations and what you aspire to, as well as the legwork that you're prepared to put in as well. So bear in mind that you stay well and exercise self-care at this time. I'm sure you're probably more aware of your limits now, having just experienced Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn and then Aquarius. So you've definitely done a bit more of the, well, in fact, I just want to say that Capricorn, it probably is going to feel a little bit, things are definitely shifting because Pluto's not going to be in a Saturn ruled sign anymore. And Saturn's moved into Pisces. So actually it's going to be a very different feel. Things are going to feel very different. Okay, so moving on. Aquarius, Pluto's moving into your first house. So Pluto moving into your first house is definitely a time where you are going to be experiencing Pluto themes. If it's in your sun sign or in your first house, there's a sense of you embodying Pluto in some way and experiencing what he truly means to you. And this ultimately is about being really honest with yourself as well. So you're going to be shown aspects of yourself and you get to decide whether or not you like that, or whether you want it to stay or whether you want it to go. But the truth always rises to the top is something I've written here. There's definitely a sense of legacy and doing a lot of personal work here, as well as connecting to family and ultimately, you know, looking at your future and what you believe you can achieve. So it's probably quite obvious that you've been undergoing some changes anyway, and doing a lot of the Pluto work because it's been in the 12th house, so in sort of like the subconscious realms, but you've probably been picking up on a lot of Pluto experiences and dealing with those kind of things. But now Pluto actually rules your career house, Aquarius. So it could be that what you do, what you're currently known for, becomes something of a bit of an obsession. So it could be either you've got like a hobby that everybody knows you for, or maybe it's your job. It becomes more demanding of your time, essentially, and you end up getting quite sucked into that area of your life. Family may become you know, at the forefront for you as well. It could be that you know, during this period you are more aware of issues in your family that have given you limiting beliefs, and that you have to break away from that mold, the expectation. If you're already doing your Aquarian thing and being different and they accept that about you, then it could be that at this time you are rewarded greatly for it, and that actually you are given a platform to truly be yourself, and you have this magnetism that people find you a source of fascination, and they want to know more and they want to be closer to you. Definitely if you've got Pluto transiting your sun or your first house, your sign, you will definitely have a magnetic quality about you. The thing is with Pluto is it wants to be really, really intensely involved, but Aquarius likes to have a bit of space. So there's striking a balance between that space and that immersion that you get with Aquarius and Scorpio. So it can be difficult. The other thing is that Scorpio does like to keep itself to itself, and Pluto it's very honest, but it doesn't need to be broadcasting everything, whereas Aquarius is quite chatty and social and wants to tell everybody, share everything and be quite open. So there's a kind of essentially going to be a battle between keeping your poker face on and keeping your plans under a kind of under wraps, essentially, but on top of that also speaking your truth and being who you truly are. I think you're probably going to be involved in some of the more public issues, because you're essentially going to be the outer planet person here who's dealing with Pluto on a very personal level. And Pluto in Aquarius is definitely going to be about transforming our communities and where we find ourselves in that. And politics, I think, is going to be very interesting over the coming years. I think political systems are going to undergo major change. So it could be that you get quite involved in that and find your voice. But I do think that this is a great time for personal power. And It's an unfolding process. It's an enlivening period. Okay, Pisces, my final sign of the zodiac. Pisces, this is about spiritual learnings and yearnings. I think that there's a sense of transforming your belief system even, because what is life without belief? I actually saw a post with Justin Bieber the other day, a famous Pisces. Let me see if I can find it quickly. I think I can remember where it was now. Okay, so here's the Justin Bieber quote. It says here, if you don't dream big, there's no use of dreaming. If you don't have faith, there's no worth believing. Not unsurprising that a Pisces would come out with a statement like that, and also a famous singer and songwriter could come up with something quite poetic. Bit of a surprise that it is actually Justin Bieber that said it. But, you know, he's probably a lot deeper and a lot more spiritual than we realise. I know his mum's quite a spiritual soul. I'd imagine he probably is too. But yes, I feel like that's a good statement for Pisces. And it is about dreaming big, but dreams that can literally transform your entire outlook. Dreams that potentially, and it doesn't necessarily have to be dreams, it can be 12th house experiences, so experiences where we are working with people who are in need of our help, people who you know, are disempowered, you know, the area where we want to give charity and to help the less fortunate in some ways, or maybe the people who are suffering with illness, going into hospitals and doing work where we are hoping to improve the lives of people who are experiencing ill health or limitations in some way. And for you, Pisces, maybe this is about embracing your inner preacher, embracing your spiritual teacher, because maybe you've had a bit of a tough time of it, and you know, you're going to have Saturn in your first house for the next couple of years. And that is going to be helping you to hold yourself accountable and take responsibility for yourself. And perhaps, you know, not that just because you're Pisces, you're going to be an alcoholic, but the image I get for like a Saturn in Pisces is a Saturn in Pisces transit is kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, where they have the 12-step program where they have to go out and apologize to people and take responsibility and understand that their actions have consequences. But I'm not saying that you are going to do a 12-step program because you're an alcoholic, but potentially maybe you are going to do a sense of your own kind of work where you do take responsibility for perhaps some of the areas of your life that you aren't happy with, and that you are able to go out and help other people who find themselves in those situations. It could be like a spiritual teacher or guide at this point, somebody who goes out and does healing work. The sign, the religion that's most connected with Pisces is Christianity, and that kind of Jesus Christ Savior image. And maybe at this point, with Pluto moving into your 12th house, there's a sense of meeting people who are going through some of the things that you've been through, that you actually do have some real understanding and life skills and some really, really amazing philosophies that could change the way that people feel or see the situation that they find themselves in. But also yourself, maybe you've reached a point where you are embracing a new philosophy because life has given you lemons and you've just realized you can make lemonade. You know, you are, I think when it comes to the 12th house, and that being a distorted area, being kind of the area, the whole area of the chart where we can look at the ice cube being placed into a cup of water and watching that ice return to its original state. This is a place where you can understand that kind of quality, and really the finite quality of this material existence, and potentially your life experience and your perspective on what we're really here to do in this world right now, in this physical form, is to I don't know what your beliefs on the meaning of life are, but I think that it's got something to do with love, kindness, and compassion. And Pisces, I think that maybe at this point, a shift in your perspective, potentially understanding that maybe some of the things that you've been through over recent years, or some of your early experiences, or maybe some of the people that you've met in your life, realizing that there are good aspects to even some of the worst relationships, or some of the worst experiences, in the respect that we're in Earth school right now. It feels like Earth school, where we're here to do our learning on this physical plane, is one level of our process. And with Pluto moving into your 12th house in Aquarius, the shift in perspective and understanding that it may be a liberating time for you. It could also be a time where you're pulled into behaviors which are not so helpful. And obviously the 12th house is known as the house of self-sabotage. So it's worth understanding, you know, looking at the people that you're surrounded with, and looking at the practices that you are involved with, you know, the things that you're doing on a daily basis, you know, some of the behavior patterns and subconscious behavior patterns, maybe again a place of shadow work. It's worth looking at that and trying to recognize, is this working for me or not? And on top of that, you know, the 9th house is ruled by Pluto in this chart. So essentially, you know, don't be tempted to get sucked into a cult. You know, like, you might find religion, but don't be so obsessed, and don't believe so wholeheartedly. It's Robert Anton Wilson. I think it's Robert Anton Wilson, maybe not, but I believe from that area of my learnings, said belief is the death of intelligence. So don't just completely commit yourself to a belief system. Explore them all. Be Aquarian and intellectual about it, and understand that if you are cult-like in your commitment to an idea, you could find yourself imprisoned by your very, you know, your own belief system, rather than freed by the power of connection to your personal God. Anyway, so let's have a quick look and see what else I put here. So channeling your message and relying on your intuition and feeling the way forward, despite what logic might suggest, is important. To feel your way. Yes. So finding a sense of community which could serve a higher purpose. Yeah, oh yeah, I've put beware of vampires and self-undoing. Psychic vampires at this time could potentially take all your energy away. So like I said, be careful of who you're mixing with. Make sure that you're not you know, surrounding yourself with people that just want to take all the time from you. And yeah, this is a time for ancestral, familial, and collective work, collective inheritance, and karmic work as well. So this is a time, this could be your life's work, and not just this life. It could be many lifetimes work that you're here to do right now, as far as Pluto moving into this area of your chart. So hopefully you found that useful. And if you'd like to be entered into a draw for the personalized astrology clock or personalized birth chart by Monk's Astrology, Catherine Monks, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video and all the other ones you watch if you do like them, and just screenshot me. If you've got a private YouTube channel, just screenshot and email the screenshot to Stephanie@stelliumastrology.com. That's STEFANIE@stelliumastrology.com. And if you could also just send me your little YouTube handle, the little @ and whatever your handle is, just because if you have a private channel, I won't be able to see who you are, and then I can't put you in the draw, and that will be drawn at the end of the year. Yes, make sure you join in for that, because that will be a really, really exciting one. A really beautiful clock, or a beautiful personalized chart. Yeah, I think that's everything for now. I think I've covered it all. So take care, guys, and let me know what you think, if this resonates, if you're looking forward to seeing what happens, what you think Pluto in Aquarius holds for you. Take care, everyone. Bye.